I didn't even have time to scream. 1 second I was holding Ellie's hand. The next, I was on the ground, being dragged backward through the snow. My leg was burning bitten, and the snow behind me turned red fast. I clawed at the ice, tried to turn around, but all I could do was look back. And there she was, Ellie, chasing me, her little boots sinking deep into the snow, tears streaming, screaming, "Mom, Mom." I wanted to reach for her. I wanted to say, "It's okay," but I couldn't. So I shouted, the only thing I could, louder than the pain, louder than the wind, "Run, Ellie. Don't let anyone take your heart away." Then the trees swallowed me whole. Funny thing is, the bear never even looked at her. It came for me, only me. And that's when I knew something wasn't right. This wasn't just an attack. This was something else. Before all this, before the snow turned red, before the forest took me, it was just me and Ellie, two people, one old cabin, and a whole lot of silence. David, my husband, had been gone 5 years. No funeral, no answers. Just a blood-stained jacket they found hanging on a broken tree branch. They said it was a bear attack. They told me to move on, but how do you move on from someone who never said goodbye? We stayed, right there in the woods where I lost him. I worked part-time at the clinic in town. We grew vegetables when the ground wasn't frozen. We read books by candlelight when the power went out. We told each other bedtime stories under layers of patchy quilts. And somehow, we made it work. Ellie is 8 now, too smart for her own good. She doesn't cry much, not anymore, but sometimes, at night, I'd find her staring out the window like she's waiting for something. I remember the night before everything happened. She made me something, a bracelet out of twine and little green stones she found near the creek. She held it up like it was treasure. "I made it for you, Mom." I smiled and bent down so she could tie it on my wrist. Then, quietly, she said, "If Daddy were here, I'd make one for him too." I froze. She looked out the window. The snow was starting to fall, and she whispered, "If Daddy were still alive, do you think he'd protect you?" That question, it gutted me, because I didn't know the answer. I didn't sleep much that night. I sat on the porch with a blanket wrapped around me, watching the woods, feeling like something out there was watching back. The next morning, the world looked softer under the snow, peaceful still. Ellie held my hand as we walked into town. I remember thinking how small her fingers felt in mine, how safe she made me feel. Me, the grown-up, I had no idea it would be the last normal morning we'd ever have, because by sunset a shadow was going to step out of those trees and take everything. I thought I knew and turn it inside out. It didn't go after her. It came for me. We were just a few minutes from home. Ellie was humming some song under her breath. I remember I was thinking about dinner. Just ordinary things. The forest was quiet, too quiet. Then it changed. A sound cut through the trees, low, heavy, almost like the ground was growling. We stopped. Ellie squeezed my hand. I squeezed back. Then it stepped out. A bear, huge, gray, and not like the ones I've seen before. Its eyes were wild, but not just wild. There was something behind them, something knowing. I shoved Ellie behind me. "Don't move," I whispered. But she clung to my coat. I tried to stay still. I knew better than to run, but the bear didn't charge. It just stood there, breathing, watching, then suddenly dashed. It lunged, not toward Ellie, toward me. The impact knocked the air out of me. Its teeth sank into my leg. I screamed, fell back, tried to kick. Ellie screamed, too. "Mom." She ran forward. I remember her arms reaching. I turned just enough to see her face, and I shouted, "Run, Ellie. Don't let anyone take your heart away." Then I was gone, dragged into the trees. I clawed at the ground. Snow and dirt filled my nails. Branches scraped my arms. My head was spinning, but right before everything went black, I saw it, on the bear's ear. A small, faded mark, a tattoo, 3 points, a triangle inside a circle. I knew that mark. David had it. Same shape, same place. It was the last thing I remembered seeing before he disappeared 5 years ago, and in that moment, bleeding, terrified, barely conscious, I whispered something I hadn't said out loud in years. David, when I woke up, I wasn't in the forest anymore. When I opened my eyes, the first thing I noticed was the silence. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that tells you, you're somewhere you don't belong. I was lying on a cold metal floor. My leg was wrapped sloppily, but it had stopped bleeding. The smell in the air was sharp, like old chemicals and rust. I sat up slowly. My body screamed. My brain felt like it had been shaken loose. The room I was in looked like something out of a war movie. Filing cabinets knocked over, broken glass, wires hanging from the ceiling, notes scattered across the floor. It looked abandoned, but not empty. There were signs of something recent, footprints in the dust, blood smudges on the wall, a metal door halfway open like someone left in a hurry. I limped forward, holding onto the wall. Each step sent pain slicing up my leg, but I had to know, where was I? Why wasn't I dead? In the corner, half covered by a dusty tarp, was a corkboard. I pulled it off. Photos, charts, scribbled notes, and in the middle, a picture I hadn't seen in 5 years. David standing in front of a cage, wearing a white lab coat, next to him a bear cub, small, wide-eyed, familiar. I froze. The handwriting below it was messy but clear. Subject A12, Human Cognitive Transfer, Trial, for there was something else, scrawled in red ink at the bottom. If this goes wrong, tell Lena, I never wanted to become a monster. My hands trembled. I sank to the floor. The bracelet Ellie gave me dug into my skin, and for the first time since he disappeared, I let myself say it. You were trying to protect us, weren't you? I don't know how long I sat there, but when I finally stood up, I knew one thing. This wasn't just about a wild bear, or a missing husband. Something darker happened in this place. Something no one was ever supposed to find. And if David really was that bear, why didn't he hurt me? Why did he drag me away, and then save me? I had to find him, or whatever was left of him. I thought I knew the man I married. David was the kind of guy who didn't like secrets. He told bad jokes, fixed things around the house with duct tape. He kissed my forehead when I was mad. He cried the day Ellie was born. He was real. But standing in that cold, empty lab, reading those words written in his handwriting, I realized there was a part of him I never truly knew. He used to work with animals. That much I knew. Wildlife behaviorists, trained in the military. He'd go on month-long trips deep into the forest, tagging bears, wolves, elk. He'd come home smelling like pine and smoke, and every time I asked, "What exactly do you do out there?" he'd smile and say, "Nothing exciting. Just protecting the wild." Maybe he believed that, but the papers in front of me told another story. Reports, sketches, biological data, Project A12, Human Cognitive Transfer via Neurochemical Fusion. He wasn't just studying the bears, he was experimenting on them. She offered himself as a subject. One report had a timeline. Subject DT initiated cross-integration trial. 72% brain function mapped. Irregular aggression patterns developing. DT, David Turner. My husband. My chest tightened. The bracelet on my wrist suddenly felt heavier. Not because of what he did, but because he never told me. I remembered the day he left and never came back. He kissed me longer than usual. He whispered, "No matter what happens, take care of Ellie." I thought it was just a bad feeling. Now I know he already knew what he was walking into. He didn't leave us. He was trying to become something more, stronger, smarter, something that could protect us from things we couldn't see. But something went wrong. They covered it up. They made him disappear, and now they were hunting him. I leaned against the cold metal wall, closed my eyes, and pictured him not as a monster, but as a man who loved his family so much he was willing to lose himself for them. If that bear, that thing in the woods, really is David, then I owe it to him to not be afraid. Not anymore. I had to find him, even if there's nothing left of the man I once knew. I didn't know where to start, just that I had to start somewhere. I found a trail, drops of dark red against the snow. Thick at first, then lighter, then more scattered. Something in me told me, follow it, don't think, just go. The forest felt different, not threatening, just aware, as if it remembered me, as if it remembered us. Every tree I passed looked like it had something to say. Every gust of wind carried his name. David. I didn't cry. Not yet. My heart was too full, with fear, with hope, with memories I wasn't ready to let go of hours past. My legs screamed with every step, but I didn't stop. I was walking towards something that might not even exist, but somehow, I believed he was waiting for me. And then, I saw it. A clearing, wide, quiet, covered in soft snow. And in the middle of it, him. He was lying on his side, massive, still, blood staining the snow beneath him, like spilled ink. The gray of his fur caught the last light of the afternoon, and for a second he looked almost human. I stepped closer. He didn't move. My breath caught in my chest. My hands trembled. I thought I was ready. I wasn't. I took another step, closer. Then slowly he turned his head. His eyes met mine. They weren't the eyes of a beast. They were tired, wounded, but familiar. I whispered, David. He didn't growl, didn't flinch. Instead, he lifted one massive paw, slow, gentle, shaking. And placed it not on me, but on the bracelet, still wrapped around my wrist. That was when I broke. I fell to my knees, snow soaking through my jeans, and cried for the first time in 5 years. Not because I was afraid, but because finally, he remembered. And in that moment, I didn't see a monster. I saw a man who never stopped loving me, even after he stopped being a man. But peace never lasts long. From deep in the woods, I heard something else. Engines. Voices. Engines. Voices. And then I knew they were coming for him. He didn't speak, of course not. But he didn't need to. The way he looked at me, eyes deep like winter lakes, heavy with things he could never say, it told me everything. I sat down beside him. The snow had started falling again. Quiet, soft, like the forest wanted to keep this moment sacred. I didn't know if he could feel pain the way we do. Did he still dream? Did he remember our first kiss on that broken-down porch swing? The way he'd hum lullabies to Ellie before she could speak? I wanted to ask, but all I could do was reach out. He didn't move as I placed my hand on his fur. It was coarse, cold, damp from the blood, but beneath it, still warm, still alive. And then, something happened. He turned his head, slowly, as if it took everything in him, and looked at my wrist. At the bracelet, twined, 3 green stones, crooked, child-made, but full of love. He lifted one paw, massive, scarred, moved it toward me, not fast, not threatening, just gently. And with the edge of his paw he touched the bracelet. Lightly, carefully, like he knew exactly what it was. That was the moment, not the lab, not the files, not even the tattoo. This tiny gesture, this quiet, trembling touch. It was David. I felt my throat close. Tears filled my eyes, but I didn't wipe them. I wanted him to see, to know, that I remembered, too. I laid my hand over his paw, held it there. She made it for me. I whispered, Ellie still talks about you, still wonders if you'd protect me, if you were here. I paused, and you did. You came back. The only way you could. He didn't pull away. He just let his paw rest there. For minutes, maybe it felt like years. Then he blinked, lifted his head just a little, sniffed the air, and I felt it. 2. Engines. Boots, crunching snow. Voices, cold, mechanical. They'd found us. I stood up. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a weapon. All I had was love. And that had to be enough. I heard them before I saw them. The crackle of radios, the metallic stomp of boots against frozen ground, the low, practiced voices of people who don't ask questions, just follow orders. I turned to David, or what was left of him. He was trying to lift himself, shaky, wounded, but still trying. Fighter in him wasn't gone, not yet. Then I saw them. 3 men in black gear, helmets, gloves, Heavy rifles, pointed low but ready. They stopped a few yards away, didn't flinch when they saw me, just raised a hand. Step away from the asset, one of them said flatly. Asset. That word ripped something inside me. He's not a thing, I said. My voice shook, but I didn't move. The soldier stepped forward. He's dangerous. Containment protocol has been activated. I know who he is. I stepped in front of David, heart pounding. You don't get to erase him like a mistake. The lead officer gave me a look like I was just background noise, then turned to the others. On my mark, I didn't let him finish. He was a husband. He was a father. He volunteered because he believed in something bigger than himself. And now you want to bury him in the snow and pretend he never existed. They hesitated, just for a second, but that was enough. I stepped closer. I know what he became, but I also know what he chose to protect us, to come back, to remember. And I'll be damned if I let you erase the last piece of him left. One of the soldiers lowered his weapon. He looked young, too young to be here. He glanced at David, then at me. There was something in his eyes, not doubt, but empathy. The officer scowled. Then, with clenched jaw, he snapped, "Fall back." I didn't breathe until they disappeared into the trees. No more boots, no more radio clicks, just silence. I sank down beside David again, laid my hand on his shoulder. "They're gone," I whispered. "You're safe. For now." I thought I'd feel relief, but all I felt was grief. Because even though they didn't take him, I knew the clock was ticking. He couldn't stay hidden forever, and neither could the truth. I didn't know how to explain it to her. How do you tell an 8-year-old that her father became a bear to save her, that he disappeared not because he left, but because he stayed, in the only way he could? I didn't tell her anything. At first, I didn't need to, because Ellie already knew. The day after I came home, limping and bruised, she was waiting, at the porch. She didn't run to hug me, she just looked at me, straight through me, like she saw something I hadn't said yet. Then she asked, gently, "Did he find you, Mommy?" I froze. I sat down beside her, heart twisting. "What do you mean, sweetie?" She pointed to the woods. "Daddy, he was in my dream. He said he remembered the bracelet." I couldn't speak. She reached for my hand, touched the twine still on my wrist, and smiled, soft, certain. "I think he's still watching, just not the way we thought." That night, after she went to bed, I found a drawing on the kitchen table. It was simple crayon on white paper, a little girl, a woman, and a gray bear, sitting beside them under a pine tree. They were smiling, and in the bear's paw was the bracelet. I held that paper in my hands for a long time, because no one told her. No one had 2 children. No, they always know when someone loves them enough to never really leave. Maybe we don't need a body to say goodbye. Maybe all we need is a story, and Ellie's story. It's one of love, of wild forests, and of a father who became something impossible, so his daughter could feel safe again. The world may never believe it. They'll say it's myth, a mother's fantasy, a child's drawing. But I know better, because love doesn't always look like what we expect. Sometimes it has claws and scars, and still remembers who it once was. It's funny, isn't it, how love finds its way back, even when the body changes, even when words are lost, even when the world says, "This is impossible." But, in the quiet, when the snow falls soft, and a child still draws her father beside a pine tree, you know it's real. I don't know what tomorrow holds. Maybe one day, the world will forget this story. Maybe they'll turn it into legend, or bury it under reports and silence. But not Ellie, and not me. We remember. And we keep walking forward, step by step, with love that never unlearns its way home. If you've ever loved someone in a way no one else could understand, maybe you understand me. And if this story found you on a quiet day, maybe it's because a part of you needed it. Thank you for listening. If your heart is still here with us, you can stay a little longer. There are more stories waiting to be told. Stories of love, of letting go, of holding on. Until next time, be safe, be kind, and keep believing in the impossible.